Critical minerals are essential for the development of clean energy technologies, such as electric vehicles, wind turbines, and solar panels. However, most of these minerals are controlled by China, which has a near monopoly on their extraction and processing. China produces about 80% of the world's rare earth elements, which are vital for many high-tech applications. China also dominates the production of other critical minerals, such as cobalt, nickel, lithium, and bismuth. China has used its leverage over critical minerals to advance its geopolitical interests and pressure other countries. In 2010, China cut off exports of rare earth elements to Japan, after a dispute over the ownership of some islands in the East China Sea. This move disrupted Japan's electronics and automotive industries, and forced Japan to look for alternative sources of rare earths. China's monopoly on critical minerals poses a serious challenge for the global energy transition and the security of other countries. If China decides to restrict or manipulate the supply of these minerals, it could hamper the development and deployment of clean energy technologies around the world. It could also create dependencies and vulnerabilities for countries that rely on China for their critical mineral needs. Canada is breaking free from China's grip on critical minerals by limiting the involvement of foreign state-owned companies, especially from China, in its critical mineral industry and ordering them to sell their interests in Canadian firms. Critical minerals are essential for the green and digital economy of the future. They are used in electric vehicles, renewable energy, batteries, electronics, and defense applications. Canada has abundant reserves of these minerals, such as lithium, cobalt, rare earths, and uranium. However, Canada also faces challenges from foreign state-owned enterprises, SOEs, that may seek to acquire control or influence over Canadian critical mineral assets or supply chains. These SOEs may be motivated by non-commercial objectives that are contrary to Canada's interests and values, such as securing strategic resources for their own countries or undermining Canada's national security and sovereignty. That is why the Canadian government has strengthened its guidelines to protect its critical minerals sectors from foreign SOEs under the Investment Canada Act. The Act requires the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry to approve any foreign acquisition of control of a Canadian business above a certain value threshold. The Minister must determine whether the investment is of net benefit to Canada, taking into account factors such as economic activity, competition, innovation, and national security. According to the new policy announced on October 28, 2022, applications for acquisitions of control of a Canadian business involving critical minerals by a foreign SOE will only be approved on an exceptional basis. The policy also states that any involvement of a foreign SOE in a transaction involving critical minerals could trigger a national security review, regardless of the value of the transaction. The policy applies not only to foreign SOEs that are directly owned or controlled by a foreign government, but also to private investors that are closely tied to, subject to influence from, or could be compelled to comply with extrajudicial direction from foreign governments, particularly non-like-minded governments. The policy is part of Canada's broader strategy to build a resilient and competitive critical minerals supply chain with like-minded partners at home and abroad. Canada has signed agreements with the United States, the European Union, Australia, and Japan to cooperate on developing secure and sustainable sources of critical minerals. Canada is also supporting its domestic industry by investing in research and development, infrastructure, environmental and social standards, and Indigenous participation. By limiting the role of foreign SOEs in its critical mineral industry, Canada is sending a clear message that it will not compromise its economic and national security interests for short-term gains. Canada is also demonstrating its leadership and commitment to advancing a clean and digital future for itself and its allies.